The Canadian Freedom Truckers have kept on trucking for freedom. Why does the legacy media want to convey them so negatively and smear them? Hello there, you 4.8 million awakening wonders. Glory be unto thee as we continue to stride away from the deception and treachery and into the mighty light of what's right and who we truly are. Now, this Canadian Freedom Convoy, people don't like talking about it, do they? And they also like misrepresenting it. Even I talked about it. I've done a video this week. If you watched it, I'll throw to it at the end, you know. And when it was talked about on Twitter, people just took the YouTube short and used that and right wing, anti-vax, all that kind of stuff. You know how this stuff goes now, right? So for the record, obviously if this trucker convoy were to descend into violence, antipathy, hatred and loathing, I wouldn't support that. But what I do agree with is the right of people in a democracy to have a voice, the right of people to protest, to have an opinion, to communicate peacefully. The Freedom Convoy, which began as a working class uprising against Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's federal vaccine mandates and other COVID-19 policies, has become something of a clarion call for populism across the Western Hemisphere. Populism, by the way, I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. Always you hear right-wing populism. Me, I'd be into populism in terms of the representation of the views of the population. The people's views, requirements and opinions are heard and even instantiated at the level of government, washing aside corporate interests and entrenched deep state policy in order that we could live in a democracy. That's a kind of populism. From the massive convoy in Ottawa to the border blockade in southern Alberta, the Freedom Convoy is now spawning parallel movements in Australia, the Netherlands and potentially elsewhere. I've not read about that, I've not heard about that, I've not seen that anywhere. Have you? We actually are a news channel. I can't get any news. Where's the news? Nothing's happening. There's nothing to see. And the corporate media's slanted coverage of the movement is making it obvious to the public who it can trust and who it cannot. News organisations that promise not to allow democracy to die in darkness have instead become the very penumbra obscuring the truth. Despite drawing tens of thousands of supporters to Canada's capital of Ottawa, the grassroots protest has scarcely received fair coverage in the mainstream press. Sometimes I feel like the professional class of media journalists don't like ordinary working people. I think they don't like them. I think they think they're disgusting and just want an excuse to go, ugh, they're right wing. I really do, because that's how they talk about them all the time. The legacy media in Canada and the United States have opted to fall in line with Prime Minister Trudeau's dubbing of the convoy and its supporters as a fringe minority, packed with racists, homophobes and would-be January the 6th style insurrectionists and conspiracy theorists opposed to medical science. One of the things I've worked out as a result of my conversations on Under the Skin and as a result of our continuing news reporting on our channel here is that there are certain issues that if you continue to promote them around social justice issues, around which I am actually extremely sympathetic because I really believe in people's right to be whoever they are, and I'm appalled by racism and prejudice and hatred. It's just something that I cannot abide. By highlighting these issues and amplifying these issues, you are able to cause discord and distrust and malevolence when in fact, whether you're in a minority ethnically or sexually or a majority sexually or ethnically, your interests will be determined by economics to a huge degree. And as long as you are at odds with one another on that basis, then you are not going to be able to radically reorganize society in a way that is meaningful. I've noticed it again and again, and it's time that we took responsibility for stopping it by being very loving and accepting and tolerant to one another and of one another, regardless of identity and identification. Gay, trans, bi, black, white, working class, middle class, wherever we are, open-heartedness towards one another. It's the only antidote. The Washington Post called it a toxic movement that needed to be confronted. Canada's Globe and Mail dubbed it dangerous, reminding Canadians of the 6th of Jan 2021 riot in the United States. The Times described the convoy as a group of anti-vax truckers. In the face of these claims, organisers of the Freedom Convoy confirmed in a weekend press conference that they were fully vaccinated. You're anti-vax? Well, we're actually fully vaccinated. Yeah, but you don't like it though, do you? No, I'm very grateful for it. Yeah, but deep down, no, I'm pro-vax. But do you listen to Joe Rogan? Oh yeah, no, he's got that guy. Anti-vaxxer! For the truckers, it's not about vaccines, it's about having the freedom to choose. Wow, what a noble stand. As long as it remains peaceful, That sounds like a really heroic and necessary thing to do. That the organisers felt the need to hold a press conference for only trustworthy media speaks volumes about the death of public trust in the legacy media. How do you feel about it? Let us know in the comments below. What media sources do you like? Do you use? Who do you trust? What do you want to see us do more of? Is there anyone we can turn to, ally with? What do you think? The media has floated accusations that the convoy was instigated by foreign agents. Oh, bloody hell, man. This is like propaganda from the Second World War. It's bloody foreigners that have started this. Foreign truckers coming over here, antiing our vax. Canadian state broadcaster CBC Television went so far as to suggest that Russian actors could be continuing to fuel things as this protest grows.
There is concern that Russian actors could be continuing to fuel things as this protest grows, but perhaps even instigating it from the outset.
Oh God, where have we heard this before? It's like the Russians did it. Like, aren't we over that kind of phase of our development, the condemnation of like foreigners and stuff and mad Russian hoax gear? Isn't it time to accept that some people want their voice to be democratically heard and are willing to protest in order to get it? Widely shared footage of the massive protest in Ottawa over the weekend runs contrary to the forced narrative. The thousands of Canadians who took to the street, including the truck drivers, came from every background, race and creed, with many voicing a mixture of sadness, anger and despair at Trudeau for vilifying them. People want to be included in the running and governance of their country. They want the right to be free. These are what would be called human rights, resourced from religious and spiritual traditions, but also deeply felt by all of us, wherever we're from, however we identify. We have more in common than we have that separates us, and certainly more than we have to oppose each other around. In one instance, Freedom Convoy protesters confronted a fully masked individual holding a Confederate flag in Ottawa, which should have put to bed any claims that the truckers and their supporters intended to promote hatred and racial division. A Washington Post cartoonist depicted the convoy as a host of trucks with the word fascism on each and every one of them, prompting criticism from Elon Musk, who wrote, "If Canadian government is suppressing peaceful protests, that's where fascism lies, and cartoonist is just a shill." Yeah, like, it's really mad that the tool that's being used is "you're a fascist," but actually that is the fascistic thing. Accusations of politicisation don't hold any water. Organisers of the Freedom Convoy have rejected support from political parties in Canada, even those vocal in their support of the movement. On Sunday, organisers refused to accept an endorsement from People's Party of Canada leader Maxime Bernier, stating that it was vital for the movement to keep politicians out. Wow, what a state we're in, where politicians necessarily need to be excluded because they would taint the purity of the movement. Now, to once again state, should it become a violent protest, I would never advocate violence of any kind. But at the moment, there is zero evidence to suggest that this is anything other than people wanting to have a voice around freedom. And the idea that that can be perjured in such a way, that can be negatively regarded, smeared, slandered, in order really to just stop people having a voice, shows you what's really happening. One of the things I've learned on this channel is to almost extract the subject from the story and think of the principle behind it. Then you can see whether or not you really agree. Because if you're saying, I don't want protest, then what happens when you do want protest? You're sort of signing away, co-signing for a life that extracts your right to oppose power. That's what's actually happening. And if you can't oppose power, then power's going to do whatever's convenient for it whenever it wants to. If you remove the mechanic, and part of that mechanic is the ability of people to come together to oppose it. So don't fixate or obsess about the thing. The last thing we want to do is have this whole idea of unity amongst Canadians from across the political spectrum and the cultural spectrum, to have that be detonated by politicisation, said Benjamin Ditcher, per the Western Standard. The decision to reject official political support speaks volumes about the movement's embrace of populist tenets and a rejection of the establishment in all its forms. Crucially, the legacy media's failure to fairly cover the protest has only given the public even more reason to distrust the establishment. This adherence to the narrative, no matter how flimsy, will be its undoing. Well, I hope so, because clearly we can't rely on the mainstream legacy media anymore. It's pretty clear who they work for, and in a sense, their business model necessitates it. If you are beholden to your sponsors and your funders and government regulators, then why would you be in the service of people? Why would you be in the service of truth? Your business model simply will not allow it. Perhaps we don't even need to condemn them vehemently or vindictively or vitriolically. We just have to say that's the way it is. Let's move on. It seems to me that protest of this kind is absolutely vital, that this is something that we should come together in supporting. And however you would normally politically identify, please take on board these principles. People from ordinary backgrounds, no matter what their particularities are all on a pathway together now. One thing they fear above all else is us coming together and rejecting their narratives and ideas and standing up for one another in truth, in peace, non-violently, in freedom, together. Stay free.